Discover the incredible journey, how a hidden cat overcame challenges inside a snail shell. On one fine Saturday morning, the sun poured down on Maplewood like warm syrup, coaxing flowers to bloom and kids to play. In the small backyard where dreams and laughter floated like butterflies, Sarah sat on the creaky swing, her heart heavy with worry. As a tireless single mother, each day was a race against bills that stretched like string across her weary soul. Her 7-year-old son, Timmy, with his wild curls and lively imagination, called to her from the grass, where he was digging through the dirt, searching for treasure. "Mom! Come look! I found something!" Timmy shouted, his voice a melody of excitement. As Sarah's heart raced with a flicker of hope, she pulled herself off the swing and rushed to him, her hands stained with dirt. And that's when he unveiled an oddly shaped snail shell, shimmering in the sunlight. But what caught them both off guard was not the shell itself, but what lay cradled inside. A timid, scruffy stray cat with wide, terrified eyes stared back at them, shivering from the world outside. "Oh, my goodness!" Sarah gasped, her maternal instinct kicking in. This little fur ball desperately needed help, and in a moment, it was as if the universe had conspired to rewrite their story. But then the weight of reality crashed upon her. Between her long diner shifts and the bills piling up like snowdrifts, did she really have room in her heart and home for this fragile life? She watched as Timmy's eyes sparkled with wonder and love as he carefully reached to stroke the cat. "Can we keep her, Mom? Please?" Her chest tightened as she faced the duality of her life, the need to hustle and the desire to nurture. They were two sides of a flimsy coin, and there was only so much she could balance. Just then, Mrs. Jenkins peered over the fence, her cold, disapproving gaze sharper than a knife. "Wasting your time, Sarah. That cat's just a burden," she exclaimed, drawing her shades tighter as if to block out the warmth of their newfound friendship. But Timmy was relentless, championing Whiskers, the name he de-gifted the cat, as they all but shared a heartbeat. Amidst the doubts and judgments of the neighborhood, he proposed entering Whiskers into the upcoming community charity event, suggesting a pet contest that could help raise donations for the town's struggling food bank. "If she wins, we can get food for everyone, Mom," Timmy declared, his passion igniting the room. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As they prepared for the event, it was clear that Whiskers was more than just a pet, she became a catalyst, uniting the neighborhood. They learned she could do tricks, flipping and pouncing in ways that made the kids squeal with delight. But just as they started to feel the warmth of their community, a fierce storm rolled in like a bad omen, disrupting everything. Wind howled, and chaos erupted as the makeshift stage toppled over, littering the park with fear and uncertainty. In that tempest, Sarah's heart raced. She found herself torn. Whispers clouded her mind while her instinct screamed for her to protect Timmy. "Stay close," she shouted, her protective instincts on high alert. Could they keep the hope they dekindled in the face of such adversity, or would everything come crashing down, even their fragile sense of belonging? As storm clouds gathered above, the answer slipped through her fingers like sand. The storm raged around them, twisting trees and sending loose debris scuttling across the grass. Sarah's heart pounded, each beat echoing the fear thrumming in her chest. The park, once filled with laughter and excitement, transformed into a scene of panic. Families were rushing to gather their things, laughter replaced by cries of confusion. "Timmy!" she shouted, scanning the area, her voice rising above the ferocious wind. She spotted him clutching Whiskers tightly to his chest, his wild curls whipping around his face. The cat, once timid, seemed to sense the urgency, her wide eyes darting about, mirroring Sarah's own panic. Timmy's grip tightened as he looked up at his mom, his face set with determination. "We have to protect her, Mom." His voice was steady despite the chaos. Let us get to the car. Sarah shouted, forced to make a decision. She reached for Timmy's hand, which felt so small in her grip. As they ran, she felt the weight of every unmade decision pressing down on her, but she couldn't let the storm steal their hope. They dashed toward the parking lot, dodging branches and fallen signs that danced unsettlingly on the gusts. Just as they reached the car, Sarah felt the strangest pull. A flicker of light caught her eye. Beneath the tangle of storm-whipped branches lay a broken flower pot. But it wasn't the pot that drew her in, it was the vibrant petals scattered around. "Mom, hurry!" Timmy urged, his eyes wide with fear. "Just a sec." Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that those petals were more than just debris. Maybe they represented a connection to the community, a symbol of what they could still grow together even in dark times. She scooped up a handful of petals, feeling the softness against her palms. But she snapped back to reality. A loud crack echoed in the air as a tree branch broke, crashing in the distance. Adrenaline shot through her veins, urging her to move. Finally in the car, she glanced back at the park. The storm held, but amidst the chaos, she spotted familiar faces, neighbors rushing to help each other, sharing laughter and a steady hand. That warmth sparked something within her, a flicker of resilience. "Mom?" "Whiskers is scared," Timmy said softly, using his free hand to stroke the trembling cat. He looked up at her with eyes filled with unwavering trust. "I know, baby. We'll find a way," Sarah replied, her voice firm with newfound resolve. Maybe Mrs. Jenkins was wrong. Maybe, just maybe, Whiskers was the sign they needed that community and love could triumph over adversity. With a newfound determination, Sarah turned the car around, heading back toward the park. She could help, support those she had judged earlier, just as they had reached out to her in their time of need. They could make it through this storm together. As the rain began to ease, dropping gently like sweet melodies to the earth, Sarah pulled into the grass where the community had gathered under the makeshift tents, debris still scattered about. The spirit of hope lingered, vibrant like the scattered petals in her hands. "Let us show them what we've got, Whiskers!" Timmy exclaimed, beaming with excitement, as he carefully placed the cat on the ground. Sarah watched, heart swelling, as the community began to come alive again, laughter blending with the scent of wet earth. But then a shadow crossed Sarah's mind. What if this storm was just a precursor to more challenges? What if they couldn't pull through the next one? With Timmy and Whiskers by her side, she knew they could navigate these obstacles, but would the weight of the world continue to press down on her? As she stood there, love and fear mingled, uncertainty looming like dark clouds in the distance. What more was coming their way, and could they truly rise above it all? As the rain softened to a gentle drizzle, the atmosphere in the park shifted. People began to emerge from their shelters, shaking off the remnants of fear like wet jackets. Timmy bounced on his heels, excitement bubbling over as he watched neighbors helping one another pick up fallen branches and debris. "Look, Mom! They're all working together!" he exclaimed, his eyes bright with hope. Sarah felt pride swelling in her chest, seeing the community coming together, united like the petals she had gathered. With a shared glance filled with determination, they joined the group effort. Sarah found herself lugging branches aside, side by side with Mrs. Jenkins and Mr. Thompson, the elderly man with the round glasses who always waved at them during their neighborhood strolls. "Guess the storm shows us what we're really made of," Mr. Thompson said, brushing a strand of gray hair from his forehead. His smile, though worn by age, radiated a warmth that made her feel a part of something bigger. As they worked, Sarah couldn't help but feel more connected to the community. Funny how they had all seemed strangers before, each lost in their own worlds. But now, with shared smiles and sweat-soaked backs, they were more like family. "Hey, Sarah! Over here!" Timmy called, pointing toward a small crowd gathering around a large oak. The fallen branches had created a natural shelter, and under it, several kids had started a makeshift game of tag, laughter ringing out clear even through the damp air. "Can I go play?" Timmy asked, eyes shining with eagerness. "Just stay where I can see you," she called back, watching as he dashed off, blending in with the other kids. A wave of relief washed over her. He was safe, happy even, and that was what mattered right now. As Sarah returned to her task, a fellow neighbor approached. "You know, Sarah, we were all worried about you." "Glad to see you back here," said Lisa, a kind smile lighting up her face. "Whiskers too," she added, glancing at the cat, who was now exploring their surroundings, oblivious to the storm's chaos. "Thank you," Sarah replied, her voice catching in her throat. It struck her how much time she'd spent in her own head, pushing her neighbors away instead of reaching out. "I guess we all have our battles," she said, trying to bridge the gap that had once felt unbridgeable. Lisa nodded, her expression shifting to one of understanding. "Yes, we do. But we're stronger together." "We always have been," she said, then turned back to help with the cleanup. Just then, a loud crack echoed in the distance, making everyone freeze. The laughter and chatter faded as heads turned toward the horizon. Black storm clouds loomed, darker and more threatening than before. "Is that more rain?" a voice murmured nervously. Sarah felt her heart sink. Hadn't they just overcome this storm? Would they have to face another one so soon? The hopeful atmosphere began to falter, doubt creeping in like a chill. But then, as if ignited by an unseen spark, Timmy broke through the crowd. "Mom, look!" he shouted, pointing at the sky. The sun peeked through the clouds, spreading soft, golden rays. "See the light? We're gonna be okay." His innocent optimism wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Sarah took a deep breath, forcing her fears aside. If they could get through this storm together, they could face anything. As joy spread through the gathered crowd, she felt their bond solidify beneath the brightening sky. But deep down, a whisper of apprehension lingered. What was lurking in those shadows? Even in this moment of unity, could they truly withstand the trials that lay ahead? The storm might have passed, but the journey was far from over. As the sun broke through, the warmth seeped into the hearts of the community. Laughter began to rise again, filling the park with life. Sarah caught Timmy's joyful squeals as he darted around the makeshift game of tag. Her heart swelled with gratitude. They had made it through the storm together. Look at him go, she thought, a smile creeping across her face. She was still holding on to the weight of doubt, but seeing her son so blissfully carefree was a reminder that hope existed, even in the unlikeliest places. During the cleanup, Sarah became aware of the small victories around her. Mrs. Jenkins was teaching a group of children how to gather twigs for kindling, their faces lit with excitement. Mr. Thompson, despite the old injuries that slowed him down, was sharing stories about the great storms from his youth. Community spirit was rising like the very sunbeams that pierced the clouds. Maybe this is what we need, Sarah thought, her hands now a little less heavy with the branches. Her heart was slowly unraveling from its tight coil, tensions released by the shared laughter and connection. Just as Sarah started to feel lighter, she saw the darker clouds moving closer, absorbing the sun's rays. No longer was the threat a distant memory, it was creeping back, a silent reminder of the storm they'd just endured. "Hey, Sarah! You might want to look over here," shouted a neighbor named Tom. His voice pulled her from her thoughts. When she turned, she saw that the skies were indeed shifting. The air grew still, an unsettling silence landing heavily as a warning. "Don't you dare!" Timmy shouted, pointing at the clouds, his innocence still refusing to succumb to fear. "You can't come back. Not now." Forcing a laugh, Sarah walked over to Timmy, ruffling his hair. "Are you giving those clouds a piece of your mind, buddy? They need to know they can't ruin our fun again." Timmy replied, standing tall as if confronting the storm itself. His determination was unwavering, a beacon of light in her dimming thoughts. But the air thickened, and whispers of worry spread through the crowd like wildfire. "Maybe we should head back," Lisa suggested uncertainly. "Just to be safe." No one wanted to admit it, but they all felt the pulse of anxiety rising. Sarah sensed it. She wanted to reassure everyone, to echo Timmy's strength, but doubt clouded her heart again. What if it wasn't just a storm? What if deeper struggles were lurking just beyond the horizon? Okay everyone, Sarah finally said, trying to channel Timmy's courage. We can hold off a little while longer. Let us make these moments count. We'll get through this together. But the murmurs grew louder, and uncertainty hung thick. As they began to gather their things, Timmy pulled Sarah aside. Mom, are the clouds gonna ruin everything again? His voice softened, filled with a seriousness that matched the weight in her chest. No, sweetheart, she replied, her tone trying to solidify the promise she wasn't sure she could deliver. We'll find a way to be okay. We'll face whatever it is together. Timmy tilted his head, searching her eyes for the truth. It was a look that sent shivers down her spine, awakening fears she thought they'd set aside. The looming storm felt more than just a battle against nature. As shadows danced around them once more, Sarah whispered a silent prayer. Could they truly mount the storm ahead? The sunlight shifted, and the clouds continued to swirl ominously. The challenge before them felt monumental, and the question hung in the air. Would they weather it as one, or would their newfound strength be tested in ways they couldn't yet imagine? Time stood still as the first drops of rain began to fall again, heavy and determined. The first drop landed on Timmy's cheek, the coolness shocking him out of his defiance. He looked up, eyes wide, searching the sky as if he could will the clouds to recede. Sarah felt an ache in her heart. She wanted to shield him from fear, yet couldn't ignore the rising tension that echoed through the crowd. Come on, everyone, she called out, her voice steadying itself against the growing storm. Let us pack up and head to the community center. It's better to be safe. Faces turned toward her, a mixture of resolve and hesitation settling in. They had fought hard to reclaim this day, and the looming clouds threatened not only their outdoor fun but also the fragile renewal of spirit they had worked so hard to build. Do we have to, Mom? Timmy asked, glancing between Sarah and the dark sky above. Just for a little while, she reassured him, squatting to meet his gaze. It's just a little rain, nothing we can't handle together. The rain began to fall steadily now, each drop an unwelcome reminder. Sarah watched as families gathered their belongings, mixing laughter with a shared undercurrent of anxiety. She saw Mrs. Jenkins ushering the kids towards the parking lot, their cheeks flushed from the cold, while Mr. Thompson came over, leaning heavily on his cane. Let us see what stories we can swap while waiting it out, shall we, he said, a twinkle in his eye trying to mask his own apprehension. Sarah appreciated the effort. They needed that spirit. But her own doubts were becoming harder to ignore. What would it take for this community to feel whole again? As she walked alongside Timmy, her heart weighed down with the fear that their world was still at risk. When they reached the community center, the atmosphere shifted. The interior was alive with warmth, laughter echoing off the walls. The crowd salvaged what remained of the day with games, crafts, and shared snacks. Timmy was quick to join a group playing cards, his laugh ringing out like music. Sarah, however, lingered at the edges, observing the camaraderie but feeling a distance. Despite the joy around her, shadows of yesterday crept in. The looming clouds outside felt like a metaphor for the struggles that still lingered within. Earth to Sarah? A voice broke through her thoughts. Lisa stood beside her, concern etched on her brow. You okay? Yeah, just thinking. Sarah forced a smile, but it felt thin and fragile. About the storm? About everything, she admitted quietly. I get it. Lisa sighed, her gaze shifting to the pouring rain beyond the windows. But look at everyone. We're still here, still moving forward. That's what matters, right? Sarah wanted to believe it, to embrace the moment as a victory. But there was a knot tightening in her stomach. We survived one storm, but could they truly endure another? Do you think we can manage another battle? She finally asked. Together? Absolutely. Lisa's eyes softened. But fear not, it can't rain forever. In that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of hope, a reminder that they were more than the storms they faced. But just as quickly as it came, doubt insisted again. What if the hardest days were still ahead, waiting just beyond the clouds? Outside, a roll of thunder echoed ominously, jolting Sarah from her reverie. She could see branches swaying wildly. The storm was far from over, and a chill settled in her bones. "Timmy," she called out, searching for his smiling face amid the chaos of children. What would happen if the power went out? If the storm grew fiercer? Fear crept in again, weighing heavy against her heart as she regrouped her thoughts. But even as uncertainty hardened her chest, she sensed the bond they had strong and unwavering. Serve together or weather alone. With a shaky breath, she resolved to fight. They were strong, weren't they? So why couldn't they justify their belief in each other? As she turned back to her son, another tremor of thunder rolled through the building. The lights flickered ominously. Would this night test their resolve as never before? The lights flickered again, casting unsettling shadows across the room. Laughter momentarily hushed, replaced by whispers and anxious glances. Sarah's heart raced as echoes of thunder resonated outside, shaking the walls of the community center like reminders of their vulnerability. "Timmy," she shouted, more urgently this time, scanning the faces around her. The movement of the crowd felt chaotic, a wave of energy born from uncertainty. She couldn't let panic set in. As she pushed deeper into the throng, she spotted Timmy. He stood at a makeshift table, his brow furrowed in concentration as he shuffled a deck of cards with a couple of other kids. For a brief moment, relief washed over her. But another crash of thunder rolled through the roof, large and malevolent, and the lights dimmed again, leaving the room teetering on the edge of dark. "Quick, everyone! Stay close!" Sarah's voice rose above the murmurs, and her maternal instincts kicked into overdrive. The kids clustered together near Timmy, but the growing tightness in Sarah's chest warned her that their safety net felt fragile. With every crack of thunder, her mind raced. How long would the power last? What if the storm turned? "Mom?" Timmy's voice pierced her worried thoughts, a thread of innocence woven through the chaos. "I'm okay, really. We're having fun." But Sarah could only nod weakly, taking comfort in the laughter still bubbling through the darkness. She needed to keep it going. "Let us play a game together." Quickly, she suggested charades, hoping the silliness would distract everyone from the storm outside. The children jumped into action, reveling in the imagination of charades, joy erupting with each goofy impersonation. The room breathed a little easier, bodies warmed by laughter and creativity. In the midst of it, Sarah locked eyes with Lisa, who had taken charge of another group. A determined glint shone in her eyes, a shared understanding shimmering like sunshine breaking through clouds. They would keep pushing through, no matter how heavy the rains fell. Just as a child mimicked a frog, hopping around and eliciting giggles, the lights flickered one last time, plunging them into darkness. Gasps erupted, mixed with a chorus of woe. And squeals. Okay. Everyone just hold still," Sarah called out. The sudden chaos threw her off balance, but she steadied herself. She clenched her fists, feeling the warmth of unexpected resolve swirl through her. "Two options," she announced, voice steady. "We can huddle together and make shadow puppets, or I can tell you a spooky story." The tension lifted slightly as children chattered among themselves. Story. Timmy shouted in excitement, and a chorus of voices joined in. "All right, let me think," Sarah thought quickly, courage surfacing through her fingertips. She pulled them in close, letting the soft, reassuring darkness envelop them. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, lived a brave little snail. As she spun the tale, weaving elements of adventure and friendship, the laughter of her son and friends painted the darkness in warm hues. With each twist of the narrative, they faced imaginary dragons, rivers of chocolate, and thorny brambles, bound together in a world of myth. But in the back of her mind, the thunder rolled on, a timeless reminder that darkness lurked just outside. As Sarah spoke about their victories against fearsome foes, a lingering thought shadowed her heart. What if the real battle was the one they'd yet to confront? And so she continued, her voice unwavering, even as her own doubts cried for attention. She needed to believe that hope could carry them through whatever storms lay ahead. Just then, a loud crash echoed down the street outside, rattling the windows and sending the room into a flurry of whispers and wide-eyed stares. What if the real danger was closer than they realized? Sarah took a deep breath, her next words feeling heavier with meaning. Just as she opened her mouth to reassure them, another crack of thunder boomed loudly, silencing the children instantly. Would she manage to protect them from the shadows waiting just beyond the storm? The air felt electric, charged with tension and uncertainty. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she glanced at the children's fearful faces. The flickering emergency lights barely illuminated their wide eyes, reflecting a blend of curiosity and fear. "Okay," she finally said, forcing a cheerful tone into her voice. "Let us make this story even better. If you hear a sound outside or a crash, just imagine it's the dragons from our story getting a little too rowdy." A few giggles snuck through, lightening the mood just a fraction. She needed to hold on to that glimpse of joy, even when the wind howled outside, shaking the very foundation of their refuge. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. The brave little snail and his quest. She wove the tale tighter, embellishing it with vivid details. The snail faced ferocious storms, but he had friends like clever rabbits and a wise old owl who guided him through. As she watched the kids lean closer, their imaginations flickering like the dim lights above, a sense of purpose surged within her. But then came another crash, louder and unmistakably close. It rattled the windows harder than ever before, and the laughter faded, replaced by hush-hush whispers and quickened breaths. Dread pooled in her stomach. "Listen, everybody," she said softly, her breaths even and reassuring. "We're safe in here. Remember, we have our story right now." Timmy reached for her hand, his little fingers trembling as he squeezed. "Do you think it's a real dragon, Mom?" His voice was a whisper but filled with a gravity that tugged at her heart. "Maybe," she replied, crouching down beside him. "But if it is, we just have to be brave like our snail." Bravery wasn't just about facing the external storms, she realized, it was about finding calm amid the chaos. She shot a look at Lisa, who nodded in silent solidarity, her own determination palpable. Just then, Lisa's voice cut through the worry. "How about we all close our eyes and picture our brave snail fighting the dragons?" The children hesitated, then several nodded slowly, eyes fluttering closed. Quiet overcame the chaos momentarily as they imagined the battles of their tale. With a gentle wave of her hand, Sarah guided them through the story one more time, painting the bravest pictures she could conjure, each detail a temporary shelter from the growing storms outside. Suddenly, another crash echoed, a thunderous, metallic bang that reverberated down the street, sending a ripple of fear through the group. A few kids opened their eyes, some even gasped, fear creeping back in their faces. "Stay together. Keep breathing. We can be brave together," Sarah urged, using her voice as a lifeline in that storm-wrought moment. But for all her reassurances, a jarring thought struck her, one she hadn't yet vocalized. What if the darkness outside wasn't just a storm? As she continued to weave her tale, she couldn't shake that feeling. In her mind, little shadows began to take shape, not of dragons, but of something more sinister. A twist of fate, a reality that was starting to seep into her imagined world. With her voice becoming steadier, she urged the children to battle alongside their brave snail. They fought together, vanquishing imaginary foes, and for a moment, the echoes of thunder and fear felt distant, as if they were all shielded under a blanket of adventure. But then, a crash that rocked the very street beneath them forced her to pause. It wasn't thunder this time. The vibrations felt different, tight with a tangible threat. "What was that?" Timmy whispered, eyes darting toward the door, hope yet mingling with dread. In that moment, Sarah knew they were teetering on a fragile edge. She took a deep breath, ready to either dispel their fears or confront something far more daunting. Would she find the strength to protect them from the unknown lurking just outside, or would the storm reveal more than they bargained for? And just as she opened her mouth to speak again, the lights blinked out for a second time, leaving them in absolute darkness. For a heartbeat, the world around them plunged into silence, as if the storm had taken a breath. Sarah's chest tightened. She felt the cool air brushing against her skin, the kind that whispered secrets of danger. Stay close. She called out, trying to project confidence, even as her heart raced. She could barely see the outlines of the children's faces, but their small figures shivered in the darkness. A muffled whimper echoed through the void, piercing the tension. "Mom, I can't see." Timmy's voice, filled with trepidation, broke through the stillness. Sarah reached out, her hand finding his soft cheek, reassuringly firm. "I'm right here, Timmy. We're all together, and that makes us strong." Just then, the emergency lights flickered back to life, casting a dim but comforting glow in the cramped room. She could see the kids, wide-eyed and clinging to one another, their fear palpable. What had felt like an adventure just moments ago now felt like a precarious balancing act on the edge of an abyss. "Can we read the next part of the story?" Lisa's voice quivered but held a thread of hope. Sarah nodded, grateful for the shift in focus. She straightened, her storyteller role firmly back in her grasp. "Yes. Let us continue our adventure. Our brave snail gathers his friends, the rabbits and the wise owl, to face the challenges ahead." With the light flickering above, weaving shapes across the walls, she painted the scene of the snail rallying his friends. Together, they devise a plan to confront the dragons. Her voice rose, catching the children's imagination just like before. "And what if Timmy chimed in, what if they have to fight the dragon's shadows too?" Sarah froze for a moment, the innocent suggestion sending a chill down her spine. Fighting shadows was metaphorical, but tonight felt all too real. That's right. Sometimes the shadows can be more frightening than the beasts themselves. She bit her lip, pushing the thought away. As she guided them through the tale, weaving in more obstacles, she noticed that the children were leaning in closer again, their fears melting back into the colorful world of their imagination. Shadows transformed into dragons, grass turned into glorious fields, and clouds became mounts for daring battles. But before they could dive deeper into their tale, yet another crash erupted outside, loud and resonant. It felt like the world itself was tearing apart. The children flinched, and Sarah's heart skipped. This sound was too real, too ominous. "Everyone, we need to stay calm," she said, trying to mask the urgency in her voice. "Just like our snail, we must think of a strategy." Their breaths mingled with the wind howling outside, creating a tension that almost suffocated her. They all faced the door, nerves swirling in the air. For a moment, Sarah's gaze fell on the window. Shadows danced against the dim light, creating shapes and movements that made her skin prickle. What if it wasn't just the storm? As they all huddled closer, a warmth began to spread between them, a shared sense of courage battling against the unsettling unknown. Suddenly, the door rattled violently. "Is someone out there?" Timmy whispered, his voice trembling. Sarah held her breath. The delicate balance she'd created between fear and adventure was about to shatter, and she wasn't sure if she could piece it back together again. "Should we check?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No. We stay here," Sarah said, her own fear surfacing. The brave snail wouldn't venture out until he knows it's safe. But in her heart, she felt the weight of uncertainty, and she knew she had to choose: confront the unknown or keep them hidden away in their own world. Outside, something shifted. And the shadows grew longer. Would they find safety in that room, or would they be drawn into the darker tale? With one final resolute breath, Sarah whispered, "Together, we face whatever it is." But as she gripped the edge of the storytelling fixture, the door swung open, revealing a silhouette against the storm. The silhouette stood stark against the flickering light, and for a moment, Sarah felt as if time had stopped. Her heart raced as it took a step forward, revealing a dark figure, drenched but undeniably human. She could see nothing of its features, just the outline, illuminated eerily by the glow above. "Who's there?" she called, her voice stronger than she felt. The children's breaths had become shallow, hearts pounding in synchrony with hers. "I am here to help," came the voice, shaky yet firm. The storm raged outside, but a flicker of hope ignited within Sarah. "Are you okay?" The figure took another step closer, allowing more light to touch its drenched attire. It was a woman soaked through to the bone, her hair wild and heavy with rain. With an apprehensive energy, she stumbled in, looking around with wide, frightened eyes. "That storm is beyond anything I've ever seen," she exclaimed, shaking her head as if trying to clear the fog. "I was stranded nearby when it hit. I didn't know where else to go. Is this a safe place?" Sarah's heart softened, seeing the fear mirrored in the woman's eyes. "We're trying to be safe," she replied, glancing back at the kids, who were peering out from behind her. "Can you help us? We're a little scared." The woman nodded, her gaze shifting from Sarah to the children, crouching to their level. "Fear is normal. But sometimes, being scared means you're about to experience something brave." Timmy's small voice piped up from behind, "Are you sure?" "There's Timmy." "Wait," Lisa interrupted, her protective instinct instinctively kicking in. "We don't know if we can trust her." Sarah felt a wave of warmth for both children. They were right to be cautious, yet she knew the lesson they had to learn. Just like the brave snail in our story, sometimes facing fear means reaching out to others. The woman looked around, acknowledging each child. "That's right, sweet one. We're stronger together. I'm Clara." "Sarah." It felt comforting to say her name in this moment of chaos. "And these are my children, Timmy and Lisa." Clara straightened, smiling gently at the two kids. "We all have storms to face inside and out. But we don't have to go it alone." A resolve swelled among the children, igniting their imaginations. Sarah could see their tension release a little as they absorbed Clara's words. "Should we come up with a plan?" Clara asked, moving toward them. "Whatever is out there can't keep us down if we work together." Timmy's big eyes met Sarah's, a spark of courage igniting there. "Like the snail's friends?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly but with determination. "Yes. Just like that," Sarah affirmed, pride filling her heart. They weren't just telling a story anymore, they were about to live one. Clara knelt with the kids, unfolding ideas about how they could stay safe while facing the storms together. They huddled closer, exchanging thoughts and finding strength in one another. But as the thunder cracked and echoed against the walls, a chilling howl reverberated through the room almost like a warning. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Do you think the storm will break in?" Lisa asked, her tone wavering. "I have a feeling that this storm is far from done," Sarah murmured, the weight of her uncertainty returning. Outside, another crash echoed. And Clara's voice cut in, steady and calm, "Let us finish this story, together, and let us show that storm what we're made of." With newfound courage, they all settled to listen, ready to confront whatever came next. But as Clara peered toward the door, a shadow flickered just outside what else awaited them in the chaos of the night. Clara's words echoed like a charm, wrapping around Sarah and the children like a warm embrace. "Together," Sarah repeated softly, feeling the power of unity build within them. The storm raged outside, fierce and determined. But inside this small safe haven, something beautiful was blossoming. Timmy shifted closer to the door, eyes wide with wonder and curiosity. "What if we face the storm just like the snail?" he piped up. "He got through it by working with his friends." "That's right, buddy," Clara said, her voice strong. "We can craft our way through this storm, just like the snail built his strength with friends." With that, the kids rallied together, filled with excitement and resolve, brainstorming ways to protect their sanctuary. Sarah felt her heart swell as she witnessed their spirit. Timmy suggested making a barricade with chairs, while Lisa gathered blankets to create a cozy den where they could huddle together. Clara helped, her hands nimble, carrying supplies and leading with infectious optimism. But then, another blast of thunder jolted through the building, shaking the very walls. This feeling of unease dropped like a lead weight into Sarah's stomach. What if the storm outside got worse? What if their fortress wasn't strong enough? It tested her resolve, but just as she felt despair creeping in, she recognized the strength of the group around her. "All right, team," she called out, summoning all her energy. "What do we need to keep everyone safe? What's our plan?" Timmy looked up, his bright eyes igniting. We need to remember that together can mean sharing stories, too. We can be brave by continuing the adventure even if the storm gets stronger. Sarah nodded. Exactly, Timmy. How about we each take turns sharing stories while we hold our fort? Lisa's face lit up, and we can imagine being the brave snail, going on adventures with our new friend, Clara. So, they settled into their makeshift den, chairs stacked and blankets draped to form a cocoon against the noise outside. Timmy kicked off the storytelling, recounting an adventure of a snail who rode the winds on a paper plane, exploring faraway lands. The children, mesmerized, leaned in, laughter bubbling up around them, pushing back the shadows of fear. While they shared their tales, Sarah felt a shift within herself. The worries that had once consumed her began to fade like the clouds that had rolled in with the storm. The connection forged through their shared fears and laughter wrapped around her, warming her heart. Suddenly, Clara spoke, her voice tinged with a smile. You know, storms test our strength but also bring us together. You kids remind me of that. Alarm rippled through the room when the winds held again, stronger. But just as fear threatened to creep back in, the children erupted in laughter, closing the gap on looming uncertainties. Sarah looked around the group, warmth flooding her heart. They were a community bound not just by proximity but through shared experiences, courage, laughter, and love. As she watched Timmy mimic the brave snail with exaggerated movements, embracing the importance of friendship, she realized in that moment that they were no longer alone. The struggle she had felt, the burden of fear, doubt, and what lay outside lessened. Suddenly, the door swung open, rattling the handle. Everyone jumped at once, a wave of tension rushing back in their veins. But instead of panic, laughter erupted again, led by Timmy shouting, "It's just the storm trying to come in for a story." As the laughter filled the air, Sarah felt the last of her worries slip away, replaced by something powerful: hope. They had summoned the strength of connection, woven together in creativity and love, creating a fortress against the storm surrounding them. Then, as if the universe had conspired in their favor, the winds began to die down. Light flickered through cracks in the clouds above, illuminating their world with a soft glow. As the children resumed their stories, Sarah leaned in, feeling the weight of uncertainty evaporate. The storm wouldn't destroy them, they were stronger together. Hours passed, laughter filling the room as they drifted into brave tales and imaginative worlds. And as the storm outside began to retreat, the children basked in the warmth of connection and community that had blossomed in the midst of chaos. Finally, as the last notes of laughter faded into soft yawns, Sarah knew they would be okay. They had faced fear, embraced friendship, and found joy amid turmoil. And as the snail in their stories reminded them, they would continue to seek out new adventures together, no matter the storms that might come. Sarah smiled, gazing around at the bright faces shining in the fading light. She could finally weather the storms ahead. And so, she whispered her gratitude to the universe, an eternal promise to keep love and connection at the heart of everything. "Thank you for being our brave little snail," she murmured to the children, "we'll keep facing storms together." And with that, she knew, their journey was only beginning. Hey there, you need to subscribe now if you haven't already. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and keep these exclusive stories coming. I want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing transformation. Your support matters, and only true fans understand its importance. Let's spread the love and keep inspiring.